and I had seen female-forward co-working spaces in other parts of the country. And I just remember having the thought, if someone does that here before me, I'll be mad.
Why?
And that's like when I knew I needed to do it. I couldn't not do it. The fact is that the very first thing you do is take a look at your life. And so what is your support system? What does your savings look like? What is your healthcare needs? Do you need insurance? Do you need what level do you need? Do you have kids? Do you have a spouse? Do you have a partner? Like, let's look at all components of our lives, because you could have the best business idea in the world and the most solid business plan. And if there are not those supportive components in place, it doesn't matter.
So welcome, Leslie. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm great. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you. I'm so excited to have you here. First of all, you look amazing.
Thank you. I got dressed for you.
Well, thank you.
From my pajamas.
Yeah. So for those that don't know who you are, which I doubt in Indiana, even beyond too, can you just tell us a little bit about you and just, give us your intro?
So I'm Leslie Bailey. I am the co-founder and CEO of a media company for women in central Indiana called Indy Maven. And for a couple of years, I also owned and operated a co-working space called Maven Space.
Wow. And so I remember when Maven Space started, I think that's how I knew about you. Before that, I didn't really know which I don't know. I probably should have.
No.
So let's dive into it. Before Maven Space, like, what were you doing?
Well, my background is journalism. I didn't go to school for it. I was a communications major, but that sort of was my big first career as a grown-up. And so that evolved into ultimately this media company that Amanda Kingsbury and I started. And Amanda had been my editor when I was at the Indianapolis Star, and kind of a mentor for years. And that sort of then evolved through that media company, then having a community online, digital, which then evolved to a physical space.
So before, I want to talk about Indy Maven first, right? I feel like before there was the word community, because right now it's a buzz. Like, it's a buzzword. Everybody's like, I felt like you probably coined the word for me. It's like, so where did you even, what was going through your mind? Did you know how much was needed? Like, when you started that, like, why did you feel like that was necessary?
Well, I would love to say that was like we knew from the beginning, but that was actually kind of a surprise to us as well, because when we launched, we officially launched in October of 2019.
Okay. So before the pandemic.
5 months before the pandemic. And we had sort of really established, like, I remember applying, my articles of organization are from April of 2019. And at that time, it was going to strictly be content, right? Like a website, really more of a lifestyle directory focused. And then from there, kind of, blogs, articles, that kind of thing. What happened was that we had this launch party scheduled, and women in the community, in the greater, the city, started finding out about what we were doing. And they said, how can I join? People kept asking us, how can I join? How can I join? And I was like, well, there isn't anything to join. Like, it's really a newsletter that you sign up for. It's free. Put your email address in. That's how you join.
Right.
But Crystal Grave, who was helping us launch at the time, kind of said to me, like, I think they're looking for, like, more than just this website. Like, this in-person element. And so we knew we were going to have in-person events. But the idea of a membership was really how that launched. It was really the community telling us, we want this to exist. And it really didn't at the time. Wow. And so we added on a membership right before we launched. And now I would say we're really newsletter forward and membership community. And then the content really kind of supports that. Sort of flipped it on its head.
So it sounded like you listened to the audience, to the community, and then it became even more needed during the pandemic.
Right. And that was something obviously none of us could have anticipated.
Right.
So they knew that they wanted, the community knew they wanted something to belong to. But obviously we couldn't have anticipated that there was going to be even a greater need for that. And having something that was an online platform when people who were in person were trying to figure out how to go digital and how to be virtual, we already were that with an in-person component. So it was really easy for us to, basically it was like, okay, I guess we just aren't doing the in-person part. But everything else was already in play to be virtual. So we didn't have to do this big pivot, that a lot of people did.
Talk about perfect timing too.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I know there was a lot of it that obviously no one wants to experience a pandemic ever, but let alone 5 months after starting a business. But if we had to have a business, that was not a bad one to be starting at the time.
I would say it was a perfect one too, really.
I mean, I feel like we were valuable. I mean, we still are, but I think during that time, especially when women were craving, content that was informative and sort of sometimes whether that was educational or entertaining but just to not feel so alone. And we were all sitting in front of our screens. So a great time to have a product that was on a screen.
Right. And I remember then it was also you're staying home at first it was like, oh yeah, I get to stay home. But then, having the, whatever issues you're having with your family by staying with them with a little more longer than we usually, just having that community that you can lean into, or there's a group of women somewhere can actually kind of key into it somehow just to kind of get outside of this for a little bit.
Yeah, a group of women that you could connect with during this shared experience that was not your family. And sometimes weren't even your friends, just, people who were going through this thing collectively.
Right.
But a place that we could all sort of gather and figure it out together, I felt was really valuable.
Yeah. One of the things that I like the newsletter, because I get it too, is that you always do a good job of telling us of what's going on in the community. Because I feel like sometimes I'm so clueless of what's going on. So I'm like, what's happening? What should I be doing? Where should I be? So that's really good.
That was kind of the driver when we were coming up with the idea for Indy Maven. I remember sitting at home and I had a newborn baby at the time, and people were asking me, where to get my eyebrows done? Where should I go on an anniversary dinner date? Where should I do? And I'm like, I have spit up in my hair. Why is anyone asking me that? I don't know. But I kind of did, because up until that point, as a journalist, my job, my beat, so to speak, had been to cover things to do, lifestyle, and with a heavy emphasis on women. So it sort of made sense that I had built up this knowledge in my brain, a directory, if you will.
Right.
But I thought, well, how do I get that out of my brain and onto paper, or in this case, a website, so that, because I knew women were looking for this information.
Right.
And again, there weren't a lot of resources at the time. I think it's really exciting. There are so many more now. But I think we were definitely presenting something fresh in that it was just female forward, and not about being a mom or not. I mean, there are other things that exist for that, and that's great. But it was just about, do you identify as a woman and you live in central Indiana, there's going to be something here for you.
Yes. So the name, how did you come up with the name?
Our designer, the woman who was doing our graphic design and putting our pitch deck together, had put this image of a woman that said Maven on her T-shirt, because it was actually originally called Indy Style Guide.
Okay.
And forever, our LLC and everything was that. It was registered that way. And then we saw that on a shirt, and I was like, that's it. It's Indy Maven.
Wow.
So Lindsay Hadley should get all the credit for that.
Amazing. Wow. So then you started this business and it's growing. Did you ever feel the pressure of starting a business, or did you already had that entrepreneurial spirit in you?
Well, both of my parents were entrepreneurs,
Oh, okay.
so I think I had that modeled for me, so that did not feel so scary. I also think it sort of felt like the Wild West in that it was COVID, so, it was kind of do anything goes. We're all trying to figure it out. So I didn't feel like I was the only one trying to figure this new thing called entrepreneurship out. Other people were trying to do it as well. And I think, too, a lot of women will say after having a baby, it's this time of almost creativity, or I don't know if hormones or time on your hands up at night nursing. There was just this perfect storm for me to bring something to fruition. And so I don't think I thought that much about it. I was more acting on intuition and impulse than I was really some great business plan or strategy. I don't even know if I had a business plan to begin with. That may have come later.
Right. So then you started the Maven Space. Tell us how
Yeah.
that came about.
So we were a couple years into Indy Maven, had built this community, this audience, and we were having in-person monthly meetups again once it was kind of safe to go back outside, and always looking for a different location to have them. And that became exhausting a little bit. But at that time, was really heavily following Rachel Rogers, the author and podcast person, and she had an attorney on her podcast that said that the highest number of trademarks were filed by women that year, following COVID and the pandemic. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, women are going to need a place to work and to launch all these new side gigs, these hustles, these new businesses. Yeah. And I had seen female-forward co-working spaces in other parts of the country. And I just remember having the thought, if someone does that here before me, I'll be mad.
Why?
And that's like when I knew I needed to do it. I couldn't not do it.
That's amazing.
I was like, it's locked in.
Right.
The idea has to happen now. So it did.
Yeah, wow. So I'm getting the sense that you're kind of person where, I'm not sure if you're so much of a planner, but like you go on your intuition and you just go with it. Like with your gut, when an idea comes to place or like an opportunity, you just kind of jump into it.
Yes, I am an Enneagram 7, if anyone knows about that. Yeah, so I am always wanting the next fun thing.
Right.
So my challenge, I think, in task is to constantly like ground myself. So kind of let myself dream and what could it be, and then reel myself back in and go, okay, but now how do we put that on paper? How do we really formalize that? And I shared with you earlier, I'm actually going through a program with Cornell for women's entrepreneurship that I found out about through your email. So thank you. I learned things from you as well. And I'm on the second course out of 6. And all I keep thinking is like, I wish I had this. This was the thing I wish I had before I started my businesses. I've been through a lot of different courses and trainings and things since then, and professional development. But this is the one so far that I've been like, yep, this is what I wish I would have had.
I really like that course. So I feel like I learned so much about it. But I also wanted to say that I feel like I'm kind of similar to you, where like when I have an idea, I just go for it, and then like halfway through, I'm like, maybe I should have thought of that about that a little bit more. But I think there's an advantage to that, because while other people are still waiting to like figure it out,
100%.
we're like gone.
Yeah.
And then everyone is like, wait, what happened? But like sometimes you just can't sit on an idea. You gotta move really fast.
Yeah, and I mean it's sometimes that means you have to go back and do things a little in the reverse order. But overall, I do think that it gives you this like cutting edge advantage, because other people are just, if they're back there doing almost too much research, right? Or too much overthinking it.
Yeah.
You can talk yourself out of it.
Right.
And then sort of that's, I think, where the fear can set in.
Yes.
And talking yourself out.
Which is very common for women. But anyway, so you started Maven Space, huge success. Like I feel like it, for me, because I didn't know too much about you before that, like I feel like it just launched you to a whole new realm. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think, and in a different space. I think, I would think I was known if you were an Indy Star reader or Indianapolis Monthly, like from the lifestyle perspective and the women's perspective. But I think it moved me more into the entrepreneurship space, into real estate. Like I was now being taken seriously in a way that I think I hadn't before. And I was getting the media attention from IBJ. And, it sort of opened me up to a different world that I hadn't really been a part of before, which obviously exposes you to an entirely different audience.
Right.
And then having such a large physical space, which was
And beautiful
also an
space
event
too.
venue. Yeah.
In a great location.
Thank you.
Oh
I
my
loved
God.
It was a
Yeah.
great space. I knew from the second I walked in that was the space that I wanted.
Yeah.
But having this place where we had hundreds of people in our doors a month, that was essentially just like me getting to meet new people all the time.
Yes.
So I loved that.
That's amazing. But then did you feel any kind of pressure? Because I imagine like, I mean, I don't know if this is real for you, but like, like you got exposed to, like you just said, exposed to a whole different audience almost all of a sudden, maybe? Or like, did you feel like it was gradual, or was like, maybe not suddenly, but like overnight almost? Like,
I think the pressure came since I already had the Indy Maven audience. I was used to speaking in front of people, and for me, that part was familiar and comfortable. I think what was more new and overwhelming to me was being responsible for somebody's physical experience, making sure that the moment they walked in the space that they were greeted and they had a good experience, and was there coffee, and were they treated well, and all these things. And I fortunately had a great team of people who also were totally on top of making sure that happened, and that is the only reason that I was able to do that at all. But I think it was just a different level of pressure, and also the expenses that come along with a 15,000 square foot space. And I got a good deal, but that was still really expensive rent that came every single month. And so it was just a level of pressure. The exposure didn't overwhelm me, but the pressure did.
Yeah, and the reason why I think I want to dive into this is because we don't want to discourage people from pursuing their dreams, but I think it's necessary to understand the reality that comes with it too.
Yes.
Yes, go about your dream, go after your dream, but just know that there's going to be some changes, some shifting that might be a little uncomfortable, And then you talked about the expenses. Like, that's a reality for me. I used to use my garage, so it was like, the mortgage is paid, I'm covered. But now we have a space and I'm like, wait a minute, like, now I have to pay extra, all of these things. So, like, I know at one point you told me, like, you were dipping into your savings or stuff like that. Like, what was that like for you?
It's scary. I also, that's one of the reasons I love so far this entrepreneurship course. Not to keep selling Cornell, but the fact is that the very first thing you do is take a look at your life. And so what is your support system? What does your savings look like? What is your healthcare needs? Do you need insurance? Do you need, what level do you need? Do you have kids? Do you have a spouse? Do you have a partner? Like, let's look at all components of our lives, because you could have the best business idea in the world and the most solid business plan. And if there are not those supportive components in place, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And so that is something that I felt very validating, because that's what I always tell people when I'm mentoring or advising or just on panels or anytime I'm talking about entrepreneurship or running a business. I'm talking about that because I think people skip over it and just go straight to the business part.
Right.
And so I was fortunate in that I had a partner who was emotionally, financially, all of the ways supportive. If I didn't have that, this would have never happened. So you can't act like these things all operate in a silo.
Right.
They don't. They all have to come together.
Right. And so how do you balance like we just said earlier on, like pursuing your dream and being very, aggressive about it, and then like, okay, let me make sure that all of this part of my life is still in play. Like, balance.
I think that what made me start to think about it was when I sort of had a little bit of a breakdown. I think 2 kind of Februarys ago, I sort of got really depressed, and I just went into a really dark place, and I was totally overwhelmed. And I remember I was supposed to fly out to Palm Springs to meet my husband. He was out there for business for our anniversary, our 5th anniversary. And was it our 5th? Whatever, our anniversary. And I could barely get myself out of bed to get on the plane. Like, never have I gone to an airport with no makeup in sweatpants. Wow. I just it took everything in me to go. And I only did it because I didn't know how the only reason I went was because I didn't know how I was going to stay home by myself and take care of our kids for the day it would take him to get home. It was that just low. And after that, I had this realization, this is actually doing things to my mental health. And then I think by way of my physical health, and I wasn't exercising, and I was drinking a lot, and I just was not the person I wanted to be. And so I had to take a look at all of that and really decide that was that something I wanted to continue doing. Ultimately, I did decide yes, and was going to continue on the business. Other things changed that, and I ended up closing the business, not because of those things. Right. However, now that it's behind me, I think I would have probably wound back up in the same place. So there's a silver lining to this.
That's so good. I love that, reflection on that. But that's a good important point to talk about, because mental health for women is also so important. We never really talk about it. We're just like, I mean, for me, I feel like we're just going to the next one. We do, but then we don't stop to think about, okay, what is this doing to me? And is this should I continue to do it? Because maybe we're afraid of failure or looking like a failure in front of people, and it's not about the failure if you're winning by making that decision for yourself.
Absolutely. There was a book that actually really, there are two books that helped me with that decision. One is called Quit, The Power of Knowing When to Walk Away by Annie Duke, who's a poker player. So you want to talk about like playing your cards, right? That metaphor. And then my therapist later, after I had made the decision to close Maven Space, or I was in the process, recommended a book called Necessary Endings, which really plays into personal lives and divorce and relationships and things as well, but with a really heavy emphasis on business. And that validated my decision during that time. But I had read Quit long before that, just because I thought it was an interesting book. But it later helped me with the framework of making that decision. So I made that decision. I would say it was a combination of a forced decision in that it was not going to be feasible to move forward with the space that I was promised by this landlord. And then also, could I have gone and looked for another space? Yes, but I would have been throwing even more money that I no longer had because I had drained from the first. I was drained from the first situation, and so that's where I got to say, nope. There's power in saying I'm going to be done here, and it's at a loss, and there is a huge price tag attached to that. But at least it's my decision versus continuing and then winding up in the same place or worse.
Right. I think that's so powerful. Like, you made the decision on your own.
Yes.
So, you know what? I'm done.
Which is why it does not feel like a failure to me, or why I will say with confidence it was not a failure. What would have probably resulted in failure is looking for a new location, or worse, pouring money into that location and trying to force that situation to work would have been an absolute disaster.
Right.
This was on my terms.
Right.
I don't like the terms, not all my terms, but the decision was on my terms.
Right. So I was talking to India Brown the other day, and she said that success is defined by us. Like, we have to be the one defining what success looks like to us.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah, because sometimes even I find myself trying to make decisions because of what people think of me. And so, for example, we wanted to do the launch of this place, the opening, and it was going to be the 30th of March. And I had so many travel plans before that. And I kept thinking, oh, I have to do it on this. And my event planner was like, but why? I was like, what do you mean, but why? She's like, can you just change the dates? And I was like, oh, I guess I can change the dates.
We don't necessarily always know our own capacity to be in charge. Like, we have more power than we probably give ourselves credit for.
Maybe it's a corporate thing, like, you commit to something, it's a date, but I was like, I guess I can change the date. So
yeah, I actually just I postponed. I'm launching a mastermind.
Right.
And it's now in October. I ended up having to postpone that because of this Cornell course. I saw this course and I was like, I want to take this. And I thought, oh no, there's no way I can do both. And I kind of got stressed out about it for a while. And then I realized, like, I've only been promoting this mastermind like 2 weeks. I could just change the date. And I did.
Yeah.
And it's great. And people are buying it. And I'm excited. And it's going to be wonderful. And it had nothing to do. It didn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, it's just taking back that power, which is something I really like about you. It's like, you're redefining yourself. So for me, I don't think that Maven Space is a failure at all. I feel like you're just pivoting and changing. And because, like I said before we started, like, I look up to you. I love everything that you're doing. So I'm like, okay, what's she doing now? Like,
Thank you.
So I love that you're taking that ownership and just making that decision and helping those of us looking up to you to say it's okay, to change your mind and, do something different. So tell us a little bit about the mastermind.
So the mastermind is called Magnetic Maven. And it's a result of, I would always do these power hours or consulting with our members and non-members. That was always a service I just kind of did on the side.
I did one with you,
yes,
too.
We did. And because I was, you know, you'd get these, like, can I pick your brain? And then it was like, yeah, for 15 minutes, sure, I'll happily do that. But when we're getting into an hour and a half, like, I want to get paid for that.
Right.
And so.
As you should,
Yeah. So I started launching, we called office hours, now power hours. And after doing, 20 of them, let's say, I started to think, what's the theme here? And the theme was almost always like, I need more people to know about me. It really is marketing is what they're looking for with an element of PR, and it comes down to visibility. Yeah. And then when I was finding, I would ask people, and mostly women, how do people find out about you? And they say, well, it's all word of mouth. I don't need to do advertising. Or when I was having advertising conversations for Indy Maven, we do advertising in the newsletter, sponsored events. And people would say, well, I don't need to do that because I have word of mouth. And I'm like, but how do you think the people find out to say the word of mouth, to make that recommendation? You have to have visibility. I'm not saying you have to do advertising. I do think it's a good idea.
Right.
But that's one component.
Yes.
And so I took all of that and what I know, having been now on both sides as someone who is being interviewed or has recognition from really big, reputable brands like Forbes, but also having been on the other side of knowing what does the media want? What does that look like? Basically, how do you get eyeballs? How do you get attention? Right. So ultimately, you get customers and money, because that's why we run businesses.
Yes.
Which is another thing.
Absolutely.
Not for hobbies.
Right.
Hobbies are hobbies.
Right.
Business is business.
Right. And if you don't have the clients, you don't have a business. So this mastermind is so important because you're teaching us how to actually get those eyeballs that turns into clients. And then we keep our businesses running.
Exactly. That's the goal here, right? Yes. No expensive hobbies.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when is it starting?
October.
Okay. So, and you have opening for how many?
I have 4 left. Ooh. It's small. It's a small group.
Okay.
So I want to start small. I might keep it small. I think that having been in larger groups, I think you lose the intimacy.
Right.
It's 6 weeks, once a week. It's virtual. They're recorded. I'm also allowing for like work time, and I think that's a really important component of it. So it's not just the show up and, oh yeah, I'll get to that homework or that assignment or whatever later, like live actual work. So you get out of the class or out of the call feeling like you actually accomplished something.
Yep.
So basically, what are all the things that I have liked or not liked about years of professional development myself and applying it to this? So
it sounds like everyone listening to this should sign up for the masterclass, because there's going to be a waiting list. And, so you better jump on real quickly before, but all right. So what's next for you? I mean, beyond the masterclass, like how are you spending your time now?
So right now I spend the majority of my time putting out the Indy Maven newsletter with Stephanie, our director of operations. It's just the two of us now. We have someone doing social, but I've kind of taken back ownership of that product, which was the thing I loved from the beginning. And when I talk to people who want to start a business, I kind of use this metaphor of like, so if you like making candles, that's good. And definitely make candles. But at some point, when you scale, the further you get away from that thing, and then you never touch a candle. You're never touching wax. You're never touching the wick. You are hands off. You are now in spreadsheets. You are doing marketing. You're wearing all the other hats. Right. And so to be able to sort of get back to the tangible thing for me has been very cathartic. It's certainly reawakened my love of writing. So I'm outlining some ideas for a couple books. I don't know which one will hit, but I kind of just dabbling in all of them. Exciting. And I'll probably launch more seriously into that next year.
Okay.
My goal is to finish this course, do the mastermind, keep growing Indy Maven back into what I know that it can be and should be now that it has my attention.
Yeah.
I'm looking at doing more paid speaking and actually pursuing that. I've done a lot of speaking, but only when asked. I've never sort of put myself out there because the reality is, as a result of Maven Space and that falling through, I've got a close to $200,000 loan to pay off. Wow. So just thinking through, like, what am I actually good at that produces revenue, that helps other people, like finding that sweet spot. And so sort of have those couple irons in the fire. And it'll be a combination of what lights me up, what people find valuable, and what I get paid for, right? That's the intersection of every good,
I was going to say
business.
that, yeah, like what you still have to have that much passion for it, but then also pay the bills and help people too.
Yeah. And I think just be more present for this community that we've grown and get back into being a resource. You know, I was always around.
Yeah.
But it's hard when your attention is scattered in a lot of different directions. Yeah. So I guess just in general, I feel I'm being more present. I've just slowed down in life a ton. I'm not overcommitted. Oh, and I'm taking a watercolor class that starts on Monday.
Oh, fun.
Because we should have hobbies.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Women should, I'm on this big kick that women should have hobbies that are purely for enjoyment.
Yeah.
Creativity is a big part of it, whether you feel like you are creative or not.
Yeah.
But a creative outlet, a hobby that doesn't involve the responsibilities that one may have.
Oh my God, yeah. Because there's such a weight I feel like we have to carry.
Yeah.
And just let it go. Just let it down.
Yes, I will not be at my kids' soccer, to be clear. My husband will take them, and I will be at watercolor class.
That's right.
I'll catch a game on Saturday. I'm still showing up. I'm still present. But I need something.
Absolutely. I love it. See, I'm just loving everything that you're choosing to do. Because one, you're choosing to do it and you're doing it intentionally, and you're also showing us by example too. Because you're a leader, you're a community leader, you know. So I really appreciate this new phase, if I could call it a new phase, you know. But like, that's amazing. I feel like I love that presence part, because I feel like we can be so tied into doing the do that we forget and we lose touch. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to live my life and I'm going to live it on my own terms, making decisions that I need to make, and then but also supporting others too, as I should.
And it does come at a cost. I'm not as out at as many things as I was in the past, and that's just the season I'm in right now.
Right.
I'm trying to show up for others in different ways, but it may not be my physical presence because I just don't have that capacity right now. And that's what I can do. But you know, I recognize there's like, again, privilege in that, and it's the way that my life is set up, and it is because of my partner. It's because of a million things.
Right.
But I still think we all have more control than we allow ourselves to be.
I think that's one of the biggest things I'm taking away from this. But as a community leader, as we wrap up, there's so many women out there that are, one, afraid of taking the step because they're with, whatever the fear is, but also those that have taken the step, but also afraid of, oh my God, what if I fail? Or, so many things that could be happening. What word of encouragement can you give them?
Well, I remember hearing this statistic about, when you go start a business, everybody wants to tell you the 50% of businesses fail in the first 5 years, and you hear all these things. And I remember also reading about all these really accomplished women who all talking about the things that they failed at. And I had the ego and audacity to be like, not me. I'm going to be the one person who gets out of this unscathed, and everything I do is going to be a success. I'm not having it. Of course, that's not the case. And again, I still don't look at Maven Space as a failure. However, it still was something that I set out to do that I was not able to complete. I am so at peace with that. So I think it's almost a little, again, like the audacity. Who do we think we are to think that we're going to do it so perfectly? Somehow, and I don't honestly know what the key or solution, if I could bottle that up and sell it, I would, to give to women. But the one thing I do know is that you do not know until you try. There's just no way. And that's where you can look at every pro forma and spreadsheet and business plan, and you can follow your intuition, and it still might not work.
Right.
How are you going to know?
Right. And I think the failure is in not trying. Because honestly, Leslie, I feel like you doing all of this, and again, it's not a failure because I feel like there's so many stories of success that you've afforded other people, people that's, and like even me saying, look, I can do this because you did it. You know what I mean? I feel like, and then I don't know how many of the stories you hear on a daily or people writing to you, but like, I think that even as you're shifting, you're still leading and sharing valuable lessons for us, to us, you know. So I don't even see it as a failure. So when you say that not trying, like, I mean, not trying is the failure.
Yeah.
Because you have to try, because we never know.
And I think conversations like this, because if I learned all these lessons and kept them to myself, who does that serve?
That's why the mastermind is really good. It's going to be,
I think so. I think the more that we can share our knowledge and say there's a better, like I'm saying with this course, I wish I would have known that. I want to be the person that's telling you now,
Right.
so that you can avoid these mistakes, you know, because if you're like so many, especially women of color, entrepreneurs, did not go get MBAs. We're all figuring.
Let me tell you,
out.
I actually had an MBA,
Well, there you go. You did.
but it doesn't even
It didn't even help. Right?
Because it's all theory.
Right.
If you don't have a business while you're having an MBA or while you're doing it, it's like you learn about it, but you have to
It's not a guarantee to success, is it?
It's
Right.
not.
Yeah.
It's not. Like, I felt like I did an MBA and then now I'm doing a real MBA because I'm practicing. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, so theory and practical are so totally different things.
Yes. And to be able to sit with another person who says, this is not theory, this is not on a presentation, I went through this. Yeah. And then to be able to ask specific questions. And how can they apply to your situation? I think it is the most valuable thing.
Yeah.
So I will talk about this for as long as anyone will listen.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. No, and it's really good. I'm so thankful that you are starting the mastermind. I know there's so many great things that's in, you seem like someone that's always open to sharing. You know, I know I got a call from you and I'm like, oh, thank God. It was, because, and it was, and so I have to tell you, you gave me the idea of going after, for the Boss Ladies magazine, like instead of, going from person to try and work with different organizations. And that kind of led to the whole NABO working with, working with
I saw that you're doing that.
So I am so grateful because you planted that seed and then things just started happening after that. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so glad that worked out. There's such a great organization. Yes. And I think too, to be able to be in front of that group and say, this is what I do. This is what I offer. Here's how I can help you. How can you help me?
Yeah.
It's what that is all about.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. So I am totally looking forward to the success of your mastermind and everything else you're going to do.
Thank you. Same to you.
Yeah, thank you. So if you are really thinking about like on the fence, make sure this is your warning. Make sure you sign up because you're going to be on the waiting list. I already know that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. So such a wonderful conversation.
I love chatting with you. You're such a good interviewer. So many great questions. And
thank you.
It really inspired me to think about a lot. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Until next time, keep it locked here.